so-and-so to bed, and from bed to really worse. And the family was suffering with all that. And again, we see, just like in Fatima, moments of difficulty, social stress, where people were suffering, were starving, were losing their jobs. They needed to see that light at the end of the tunnel, and faith was very important. The children were helping their parents the best way they could to make some extra money for the family. So was Bernadette doing, and her sisters, and all the children around them. They didn't have the time to play. They just had to help their parents. And one of the things they used to do was to go down to the river side, to the river banks, and collect wood to bring home or to sell to the neighbors to make some money, because that was the only way to have a fire at home with the wood. No gas in those days. Stoves were heated with wood, and they had a fireplace to heat the house. So this was what they did, taking care of the animals, the sheep they had, helping their mothers, the boys helping their parents, their fathers. It was really, really difficult. And again, Virgin Mary saw this moment as a moment of need of faith. People were losing their faith. They were just accepting what was coming, and that was not acceptable. So Virgin Mary chooses this place because they were suffering, chooses nature where there was nothing around, not like today where we see so many villages and towns. No, nothing existed around here. This was just nature and a few homes in certain places belonging to a few families. But there was already a tradition of coming to these places, not for skiing, but for the mineral waters, because there were so many spas around. Thermal waters were very good, very well known, and a lot of people from high society and wealthy families were coming from Paris by train to stay in these spas, in these hotels, having a second residence here to spend a few weeks or months a year to get cured from certain diseases, bones, articulations, pneumonias, TBs, whatever they had, allergies. There were so many places here where they could have their treatments. So Lourdes was a very small place, but attended by these people because they were coming here to later have access to different thermal waters around. And there was a part of the population that belonged to Soubirous and Bernadette. They were poor, and they were living in the lowest part of the village, by the riverside, where there was more humidity, where life conditions were very poor, where houses had no water. They had to bring everything in, no toilets, no heating system, nothing, just a fireplace in the middle of the room sometimes, because the floors were dirt. They were not like we have nowadays in wood or even ceramic. So life was different for the people that lived in the low part of the town, and they were working most of the times. They were working for the people on top. So there were seasons. It was a season for tourism, for these spa or thermal tourism, where most of the village residents could get some extra jobs, and then the rest of the year they would have to produce the flour and have some milk produced to sell to local markets. And it's precisely in this ambience, in this kind of structure, so social structure, that the apparitions of Virgin Mary appeared here, appeared to Bernadette. So we won't see Bernadette here. Bernadette went to live in a convent in Nevers. She went to live with the Sisters of Charity, and she stayed there. She died there. She was buried there. Her relics are there nowadays. Her body, her uncorrupted body, is there to be seen when we pass by Nevers. Here in Lourdes we have a relic from a bone from the arm of Bernadette that is in the crypt. One of the churches we will visit, besides it will be the church where we will be celebrating our Mass tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning I will be showing you the shrine and explaining all the important sites that we did in Fatima. There's also important places for worship, like the grotto, the Massapiat, where Bernadette, for the first time, saw Virgin Mary, the first of many apparitions. The apparitions took place early in the year, February. So it was cold, it was snowing, it was winter time and difficult time. And Bernadette had different problems, health problems. Among those, she had asthma, and she was asthmatic, and she suffered a lot from the humidity inside her home, particularly when her father lost the mill and he had to go working for other millmen, and they had to look for a place to stay. First they stayed with some members of the family, but then the house was too small and they couldn't possibly continue to live there. So Mr. Soubris asks the local mayor if there is any place that he could rent them for a very low price, or even board them for some time, so that he could put his family to live. And the poor family is then living in a cachot. Cachot was a little prison where the prisoners, when they were some were put in. It was deactivated, it was closed, but it was a place that was empty and had capacity for the family. Of course, you can imagine the conditions there were inside the house. So Bernadette was very quite sick by the time the apparitions took place, and she was suffering a lot from those living conditions. So she's out with one of her sisters and friends to get the wood to sell and to bring home. They were by the river when the first apparition took place. 15 apparitions in total, and they went on it's not like in Fatima with a day and a time. No, Bernadette never knew when the next apparition would be taking place, but she kept going to the grotto because that's where she saw Virgin Mary for the first time. She kept insisting. She used to leave home during the night and walk to the grotto with a candle in her hand, so she could see the path, the way down to the riverside, and looking for Virgin Mary. Then returning home, she was coughing and sometimes had dirt on the dress and shoes, and her mother was so mad at her because she could really get sick and die of pneumonia if she was not careful enough. But that's the call, and she needed to go, and she went so many times, and some of those times she did see Virgin Mary. But I'm going to explain you also all the apparitions tomorrow as we do the tour on the Footsteps of Bernadette, because we can see the different apparitions and what happened along those days of the apparitions, and the message, so we can see it better as we see some of the steps of the apparitions. The hotel is very well located. It's by the riverside. It's on the bank, the Gave, G-A-V-E, Gave is the name of the river, and following the river we will be reaching the shrine. The most important place is, no doubt, just like in Fatima, with the little chapel of the apparitions. Here is the grotto, the Massapiat grotto, because that's the site of the apparitions, and that is in a big, big rock. And on top of that rock was built the first church. And the first church is nowadays called the Crypt, and it was excavated by men from Lourdes, including Bernadette's father. He was himself one of the workers that excavated almost with their hands, and very very short in material, but they wanted to build a church and they did it. So it's the first one and the most important church. That's the great Masapiel, the grotto, and the crypt, exactly the place where we will celebrate our Mass in the morning. And then other churches were built, the Immaculate Basilica on the top, and the Rosary Basilica down below by the shrine, well, by the esplanade or the square level. And then it's also a very beautiful basilica dedicated to the mysteries of the Rosary. On the right hand side you can see the Castle of Lourdes. Nowadays it's a museum and one can go up and visit the castle. It belonged to the Lords of Lourdes because all this area of the Pyrenees was divided in lordships and counties, small places with the lords, and these were the lords of the land, forming here a feudalism system. Each one with their own land and governing their own land. And Lourdes had one of these lords and the castle. With the apparitions, Bernadette came to live, and so she could also learn how to read and write and do the catechesis and the First Communion with the Sisters of Charity that were here, especially to help people because they were suffering. They needed help, health care, they needed shelter, food, and they came to help. So on the right hand side you can see where the Sisters of Charity still live today, because it's still their house, and this is where Bernadette came. Look at Bernadette here on the right hand side. You can see the statue of Bernadette there. She came to live here with the Sisters of Charity, and it is from here that she decides to go and join the sisters in Nevers. Nevers is 120 kilometers south of Paris and about a little bit more than 400 miles away from here. So it's like 60-65 miles south of Paris. We are on top of the town. To the right hand side is all the way down to the grotto, to the riverside. So in those days, Lourdes was divided in two areas. The upper town, where the high society lived, where these families had their second residences, where there were some hotels and where people came to stay for their summer thermal bath. Look on your left hand side and we will see St. Peter's Church. That was the church where the children in those days were baptized and where Bernadette was baptized. So the upper part was the rich part, right? Rich families, very wealthy families. So this was the elegant part. And here the workers were the people from the lower part, the poor people living down by the riverside, in areas that the rich did not want because it was too humid and closer to the river. This was the best part to work. Bernadette's mother, after the apparitions, she was employed by a lady that had a residence on this upper part, and she was able then to help her husband supporting the family, so it was good. The castle from here on the right hand side, on the top of the town. This is the commercial part of the town. This is the you see, the street on the right hand side is the Grotto Street. This one here starts going all the way down, and one can access this upper part of Lourdes. This is the modern part where you have all the commerce and parts that are not religious related. So this is the normal town, and down by the hotel we have all the shops that are selling religious items. So that's a difference between the two parts, upper part and lower part, and they have access. So just 10 minutes one can go up this Grotto Street and reach this area. We pass by the main food market here on the right hand side, a building from the 19th century. Les Halles, Marché, the market. And it's open every day in the morning. The social life was done around this area. Here on the left hand side, the first cinema, also used as a small casino during the 19th century. Then we have another beautiful building that is the City Hall, coming next on your left hand side. City Hall Mairie, but can also be called in French Hôtel de Ville, as you have here. Hôtel de Ville means the town's hall or the town's city hall. We're now starting going downhill to reach our hotel, the Alba Hotel, A-L-B-A, Alba Hotel.
That's my uniform, Alba.
Yeah, for the uniform. In Lourdes, people come here, if we talk about the shrine, come here to pray, to get some, this is the courthouse on the right hand side, to get healed spiritually and body cures, to pray, to stay next to Virgin Mary, to our Mother. And they don't really care whether the hotel is brilliant or just normal. The hotels here are nice, and they're not we cannot compare them with the hotels we've been having until now, but they have all we need. We have the meals in the hotels, and all the hotels in Lourdes have the same system. Meals are served at 7. We need to be filled. Meals have to be served at the same time, because everything here has to be organized so that everybody is able to do all the things they want. And the procession goes from 9 to 10, so everybody needs to be ready to go to the shrine and join the rosary and the candle procession. So it's important to have timetables. It's important to be organized, and hotels must be organized. Sometimes they have people coming for breakfast at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Therefore, they need to prepare accordingly. So our dinner today and tomorrow will be served at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. sharp. They start serving the meals. They have very good meals. You have a soup, then you have a first course, then you have a main course, and you still have the dessert or fruit, water. So breakfast is maybe not as so many things as you have in other hotels, but it's enough for our normal breakfast. So I kindly ask, we have tables for our group for breakfast and for dinner, and we must sit in the tables that are given to us. So this is our hotel, and these are the scooters I was telling you about on the left hand side. See, there's the scooters there. They have the porters that will come to bring our luggage inside. We just take the carry-ons. Now before we leave the bus, let's see important points. First,